Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, hashtag ODPH podcast. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And returning to studio, he is itching to start giving his rant that we could not even post on the blog.
Yeah, he sent it in, and it was longer than War and Peace, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is 1,225 pages. He sent it to us like, oh, yeah, here's my thoughts on the Daniel Jones draft, and we're like, yeah, that's a little long. Why don't we just save it for the show?
And for the amount of edits that we were going to have to do on it, because the thought, views, and opinions of the Giants' first-round pick are that of our coach, your coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Oh, God, guys. It was rough. I know I said I was going to live tweet the draft, but as soon as that Daniel Jones pick came in,
it just derailed everything.
Yeah, I mean, a piece of me died. A piece of me died that night. I mean, listen, I don't want to crush on the young man because there's a lot of potential and hope, and I don't want to end up, this being recorded and then coming back to bite me in the ass someday, but I just
kind of like saying Tebow won't come to Double A Binghamton.
Yes, shout out to Sound Guy Galore JR.
Yeah, I mean, what a bad pick.
Yeah.
What a bad pick.
Yeah.
You have Josh Allen falling down the board, plummeting down the board. You've got Rashawn Gray and the other linebacker falling down the board. And then at 6, the Giants faithful, we're sitting here and we're hoping. And then we get Daniel Jones.
Yeah. I realize I'm no front office wizard for NFL franchises, but when it comes to this year's draft, because I was in Avengers Endgame when the draft was going on, but looking back at how the picks were going, I'm sitting there going, okay, I see their pick of Daniel Jones. I don't understand it because he's not exactly jumping out. Like, I had to look up some highlights of the guy because admittedly I've never heard of the guy, but I'm looking at the highlights going, you know what? It's serviceable, but I'm not exactly going to take him at number 6.
And obviously we did the pre-show, our draft show. I thought in my gut that the Giants had settled on, we're just going to ride it out with Eli. We're just going to do it this year. And then next year we're going to go, that quarterback class is so deep and so rich. I mean, from Georgia all the way to Cal to Oregon, there is so many quarterbacks. Alabama, there's so many quarterbacks coming out of this collegiate draft. I thought, my God, the future is there because they're going to be a bad football team this year. So here I go. I'm thinking, all right, we're going to take a defensive player. We're going to rebuild this team. Then maybe get a wide receiver with that 17 pick. And then Daniel effing Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and this is my problem with it now, the fact that you have to save face by putting out so much promotional material to save face. Like, if your fan base is that angry, like, it's almost, I know we're wrestling fans here, guys, and everybody talks about Vince McMahon not listening to the audience and all that stuff. That's what's going on right now. Is David Gettleman is Vince McMahon. He is not listening to the audience because the fact that they're putting out so much spin material, like it's CNN or Fox News. I mean, this is brutal.
It's understandable to have a draft pick where the fans don't agree with it, but rarely, if ever, do you see the general manager of the team get in front of every camera he can at every opportunity he can to try and justify it without coming out and justifying it. To the point where it was a couple days after he said, "Oh, we'll see who's right in 3 years." And then to the video they put out on their Twitter account over the weekend where it's the hype video of Daniel Jones throwing dimes. And I'm sorry, watch the video. It's at Giants on Twitter, twitter.com/Giants or NY Giants, whatever it is. You can see the hype video with this electronic dance music playing in the background, and that's not even my issue. He's throwing check down passes with no defense.
See, this is my take on this. And we got a little time to kind of dig into this a little bit. When you had the Giants take this pick, and granted, you have teams take reaches, and let's face it.
Yeah.
Looking at who else was on the board for said position at this time,
right?
This was a reach. We kind of discussed this on last week's show. To see this reach, and then you immediately go into damage control.
Defense. Prevent defense.
Yeah. However you do this, and all you're doing is you're trying so desperately to justify the pick that it's coming across as not what you want. This is not something that's getting you to sway the opinion of your fan base. If anything, this is egging them on because you're trying to hype this up. And like Coach Duffy alluded to, if you're a pro wrestling fan, you understand this, that when the higher-ups are not listening to the fans and they're getting forced something they don't want. In this aspect, Daniel Jones is a serviceable quarterback, sure. But the problem is for where you took him in this draft over who else was on the board. This is where this is not settling. This is where other players in college football that were in this draft were ranked higher. So to go get this person at this position and then the PR job that they're trying to do to justify this to the fans, this is just going to turn into either he's going to be the guy and then everybody is wrong that's going off on him, or this is one of the biggest disasters they could do in a draft.
The results of how this plays out will be the success or failure of Gettleman's job, because he's putting so much on Daniel Jones being the future and being the guy that if it doesn't pan out, we're all fans of New York sports teams. We all know how fan bases are in the state of New York, and if you're a sports fan, you know how New York sports fans are. We're rabid. If this doesn't work, and you passed on all these other guys for Daniel Jones, they're going to want his head.
And especially in the New York media market.
I say when you got the back page of your two biggest newspapers in New York, the New York Post and the Daily News, where the day after the draft, where the New York Post had Blues Clueless with a picture of Dave Gettleman, eyes closed, shrugging, and then a photo of Daniel Jones and Roger Goodell on the back page of the New York Daily News with the caption, Blue who?
There's two really big glaring things here. One, Josh Allen was falling down the board, and he is a position in need for the Giants. We addressed that in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Number two, and this is what people I don't think are really hammering home enough, and it needs to be, is Dwayne Haskins went 15 to the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
Those two, their career are literally going to be tied together for the rest of whatever that time may be for their careers, and they play each other twice a year, every year, for the rest of their careers.
If they both stay on the same team.
If they both, both stay in the league.
Yeah. Well, if they both stay in New York and Washington.
Right. Which I mean, presumably,
you assume
you would assume so right now, given it's their rookie year.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I can't project 5 years from now. I'm just saying, storyline wise, this is where we're going right now. That these two are going to literally be linked forever.
Yeah, this is where you're going to have to really justify that pick. And like we say, for the PR job that they're doing with the videos and doing the checkdowns until all the the lights and flash there, this, I just don't see this how it's swaying anybody to buy into it. Like, you might get some people to go, okay, let's give him a shot. And honestly, you have to, if your team has taken him at this position, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
you went literally all in.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not rooting for his failure. I'm rooting for him to succeed. I want this to blow up in my face. I want to be like 5 years from now, be like, man, what an idiot I was back then. But right now, at this given moment, this does not look good.
No, this was definitely the, I don't want to say highlight of the draft.
Christian Ponder-esque.
Yeah, this is one of those reaches that it's either going to be a high success or high failure. We don't know. He's got to start playing in the league and then see what he's got. Because if you're going to go to the biggest media market on the planet and you are under one of the most richest franchises in all of the National Football League, if not all sports, let's face it, the Giants have definitely a pedigree that ranks up there with other sports teams. If you don't produce in that market, there is really no going back. And to rebuild and to survive that, there's so much pressure on this kid now.
I mean, it's crazy. It's insurmountable.
Yeah, I mean, is it fair? No, but it's the cards he's dealt. So we're going to really see what he has moving forward. Because if it doesn't pan out, it's hard to say what happens to the franchise and everybody involved with it.
I mean, there will be a lot of angry Giants fans.
Yes, there will be.
That would be for sure.
They might have to turn to an alternative product as we go into our first lead segment here on the ODPH podcast. The XFL has finally announced its return to television.
Man, dropped a bombshell today.
Yeah.
Pad, break it down for us.
So this kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we all figured it'd be coming at some point, but today was a bit of a surprise. The XFL announced, and I'm reading from the press release on their website, XFL.com, quote, "We're happy to announce that every XFL game every week will be nationally televised and easy to find for fans coast to coast. Starting February 2020, the XFL will air weekly on ABC and Fox, with games also to air on ESPN, ESPN2, Fox Sports 1, and Fox Sports 2. Our TV schedule features back-to-back games on Saturday afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, along with 2 additional games on every Sunday afternoons." So, and looking at their schedule, you can kind of see on their web, the same press release. Week 1 starts February 8th, which, ironically looked at a calendar, is the end of the week. So Super Bowl Sunday's that Sunday. They start Saturday, the end of the week, so great timing for them. It starts on Saturday, February 8th, with a game on ABC and Fox, and it kind of goes every week until they have their playoffs on Saturday, April 18th and 19th, and their championship game is going to be Sunday, April 26th on ESPN. Schedule subject to change.
Coach, your thoughts on this?
Man, well, obviously we were all texting today. This was a bombshell.
Yeah.
I mean, we all thought it would, given the fact, all right, Vince McMahon is the owner of the XFL. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit here. And, they just signed that lucrative deal with Fox to broadcast SmackDown. It was a huge payout for WWE and everything. So I thought, all right, part of probably this deal with SmackDown going to Fox was going to be the XFL being lumped in or packaged in some way or another to the Fox Sports, various channels now. But then to find out ESPN came in too is crazy.
Right.
That's what I'm shocked about, was the fact that ESPN jumped on board too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just very tricky. If you know the history of the XFL was a startup league that we had a lot of flash and favor back in how many years ago did it come
The
out?
early 2000s.
Yeah.
For one season it came out and it was supposed to be the alternative to the NFL product. It was supposed to get back to what football was really supposed to be.
No rules and this rules.
Yeah, it was the brainchild of Vince McMahon and Dick Ebersol. And as they got into it and as it started going into fruition, it didn't really turn out the way I think everybody had planned on it.
Kind
to
of
be.
start to unravel as the year went on.
It just kind of went, and it was one and done. And when we started hearing rumblings about it coming back, we were really kind of going, okay, is there really a market for it? Now, this is also at the same time the Alliance of American Football was getting talked about.
Well, the first instance that something was going on was you started seeing reports online about Vince McMahon selling off a boatload of shares in his stock, which was equaling a lot of money, and everyone's kind of going, all right, what the heck is he doing with all this money? Because Vince rarely does anything without having a purpose in mind. And then come to find out, oh, hey, I'm bringing the XFL back, and our first reaction was, why?
Yeah, that's the question, because there really wasn't a place for it, so to speak. The fans were not really screaming and really begging for it to come back. I did not hear like a super huge charge for bringing the XFL back.
Oh, so usually when anybody talks about the XFL these days, it's like, oh, hey, you remember the XFL? Yeah, I remember that. That was a thing, and that's kind of the end of the conversation.
Right, and it was just one of those kind of odd situations that, okay, as we heard it was coming back, and then obviously at this point it's coming back, and there was already another rival football league happening on top of the NFL, because the NFL, obviously, let's face it, for American football, there is nobody bigger than the NFL.
One would say they are the WWE of the football world.
You can definitely make that argument without question.
Yeah.
So to see it come back, and then we really haven't heard a lot of details about it.
It was real quiet. Just a few coaches have been announced.
Right.
Well, yeah, a few coaches have been announced, and then we also found out that where the teams that will be hosting, the cities that will be hosting teams are. It's going to be teams in Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Washington, D.C.
Right. So as we start seeing this slowly start building up and slowly developing and going, that this is just a very interesting time to see this now happening, and especially that they haven't really announced any players signed to the league yet.
No.
We've heard about some coaches getting added.
Yeah.
And obviously going into 2020 where they're going to start this league, and really you haven't heard a lot more than what's came out. But the one thing that's the takeaway is they're making a point to be on network TV.
Yeah, and if you read the press conference or the press release, there is a direct shot across the bow of the entity that was AAF, where you have the one part quote, "We will be nationally televised and easy to find for fans coast to coast."
Well, let's not forget, Dick. Eversol's son there was partners with Vince in the original XFL, and then undercut him during the AFF XFL thing because Vince had announced the XFL announcement. But then Eversol announced quickly thereafter that he was coming out with the AAF and that he had already had a TV deal with CBS and everything. And then obviously we see where the American Alliance of Football has landed because now they're non-existent.
Right, and I mean that's kind of the thing that I feel looking back was kind of AAF's downfall was that it was kind of hard to find where. You had games broadcasted on CBS Sports Network, but that's a premium sports cable package deal. At least the last I knew that you have to pay extra to get, and not a lot of people are going to want that. And outside that, I think other than the first week of games where it was on CBS regular, you really didn't have anything. So it's hard for people to get into something when it's behind a paywall, essentially. Whereas you look with this, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule every week. Including and up through the playoffs, you will have at least 2 games on cable television on ABC or Fox, which everybody's got and everyone can get to.
Here's my thing now, and this is where I think the next step needs to be with having ESPN and, especially ABC being a Disney-owned, entity, is what do they do from a rule standpoint?
Right.
Are they going to just play traditional football and get away from what the XFL was before, which was
no rules,
shock and awe to say the least? I mean, with the cheerleaders and the hot tub and that whole gimmick thing. So I mean, are they going to keep this family oriented and traditional American football, or are there going to still be the those extreme rules that was the XFL's tagline years ago?
I think in regards to what you're asking, I think it's going to be family oriented. Otherwise, the mouse wouldn't be getting involved with ABC and ESPN. I think what you're going to see from a rule standpoint is it will have more or less the same rules as the NFL does, but the things that fans complain and gripe about in regards to the NFL rules, the pass interference during the NFC Championship game last year where they couldn't review it. I very much get the feeling that in the XFL you'll be able to review that. They will take the NFL rules and they will change and fix what fans gripe and complain about the most, so that they can go, oh hey, you don't like that with the NFL? Well, our rules are different. We can fix all that.
I mean, that's always been the argument, though. I mean, what are they going to do differently to the product that it needs improvement?
Right.
And that's what it kind of boils down to, because like I said, when they started off in 2000 with the XFL, and obviously, like we said, Vince McMahon teamed up with Dick Ebersol to get it with NBC, and it was trying to build from there. So we fast forward to now, where Charlie Ebersol was the one behind the AAF
Charlie,
to go in there, and Dick is not involved with this that we know of for this new XFL. This is strictly Vince,
right? But Charlie still snuck in there at the last hour to get the AAF
to do the AAF. And as we saw, the AAF is already is defunct now.
yeah.
I mean, it didn't make a full season, and obviously it kind of brings to my point. And my question is, we have a new league coming again to I don't want to say rival the NFL, because I don't think that's the right wording, but you're going to have an alternative product.
Yeah.
Is there really a market for it?
I think it's 2 things. One, it's exposure, which they're going to have, which the AAF did not with being on CBS Sports Network. So that's first. That's the most important. Major sports network, broadcast networks is huge as far as exposure. That's what you need. That's jump off. Second is the product on the field.
Right. The product on the field is going to be the big thing. You're going to need some names. You're going to need some, maybe some college players who, are wide-eyed and didn't make it into the NFL. I think the other thing in regards to, I don't think they're going to try and compete with the NFL because, obviously the AAF tried that and it didn't work. I think the thing that's going to be working in the XFL's favor, though, is we all remember the first week ratings for the AAF when it broadcast and the great ratings they had. I think the thing that got lost in the shuffle of that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was on CBS regular cable television. After that, every other game was on like CBS Sports Network or on some app or behind some paywall. This, with the exception of having it on some games on Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, the rest of them are going to be on regular cable. That, if you got just the regular basic television package, you're going to be able to watch all these games.
Well, the argument, though, let me correct you on one thing, though, Pat. The AAF was not going in competition with the NFL. They were working as a developmental league.
Well, they were trying to. That's what the end game was going to be.
Right, but they weren't going to go head-to-head, obviously, with the
No.
NFL. But with Vince, though, coming in right after the Super Bowl with this league, that's where I'm kind of going, okay, is there a point that the fan base is going to be exhausted, or are they going to be excited about this? Because the Super Bowl is such a big payoff for fans of the league that for them to come in with a new product is going to be interesting. And especially, like I said, the only thing we've heard about is Bob Stoops, I believe, is a head coach for one of the teams.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing I know about the league, other than it's the XFL.
The only thing I might not agree with in regards to the schedule is having it in literally the same 7 days as the Super Bowl. Like, that to me is a little much. That's a little soon. Give it maybe a couple of weeks longer, a little bit more gap in between where fans are like, all right, they're moved past the Super Bowl, they're ready to move on. They're looking for something else, and then you can come in with this. To me, there's still that hangover. There's still that kind of overhang with having the Super Bowl literally the same calendar week.
I actually think the problem is that they're not doing it at the same time. That's really the problem. I mean, year-round football is difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about the fact that and when you look at other major sports that have other major, when does the NBD, the G League, when does that play?
I couldn't even tell you.
During basketball season.
Yeah, it's just during their season.
When's the AHL play?
During the season.
During the season. When does AA, AAA, and minor league baseballs play?
But let me clarify the one thing when you're kind of alluding to. Those are all farm systems,
Right? Yeah.
Right. Sure.
So
I mean, I get it.
So if you're trying to do a different league, you're not connected with the NFL. This is separate. This has no real affiliation,
right?
Other than it's the same kind of game to a degree. So for them to go head to head, I think they would just get drowned. They would never survive it.
Well, but here's the other problem, though, is that when every other league has tried to be during the offseason, the original XFL, the USFL, the Arena Football League, when all of these leagues have tried to be outside of the regular football season, that's where they've met, their demise, is because basketball is in full tilt. The NHL is in full tilt. Major League Baseball is just kicking off, and you're just coming off the Super Bowl, and people are like, spring training with Pat here. That's what he's looking forward to after the Super Bowl.
You got NASCAR's in full swing, golf is in full swing, no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, now you've got people that who are looking towards the next season instead of looking back, being like, I want more football. They're like, no, I want to get on to baseball season and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that becomes the argument because especially for them being on the networks they are, Fox and ABC via ESPN both broadcast NFL games.
Yeah.
Right.
So when is almost too much football on during that time?
I mean, to be fair, ABC and ESPN make the most sense to me because if you've paid attention to ESPN programming in the last couple of months, it's gotten real weird to the point where they're showing cornhole.
Yo, ESPN Plus will show anything.
Oh, yeah.
If you got something, they got rock climbing, they will show it. That's the thing, though, is content.
It's weird to turn on ESPN2 or whatever in like the middle of March or whatever it is and like, oh, hey, we're showing cornhole championships.
They just broadcasted Spike Ball.
But here's the thing, though, going with in their programming choices, though, they've taken shots with taking stuff that is considered non-sports. World Series of Poker is a prime example.
Right.
Sometimes taking a shot outside the box does work. And to say, is this going to be a success, it's going to be anybody's guess. But I think, though, getting back to my point, though, about it, I think if they did compete with the NFL would just drown them out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is my opinion because it's the same thing, but you're going to be arguing for the same kind of talent, same kind of professionalism on that field. And for me, I don't see the need for it. I mean, this is just me personally.
Right. I think the XFL would be able to compete with the NFL if the NFL had just started within like the last 5 years. There would be an absolute shot, but I've said it before, and I think I said it when the AAF was coming around. It's hard to compete against a league that has a now 100-year head start on you.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is like if you're going in saying that you're going to compete, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You cannot go up against the NFL. They are too powerful, they are too strong, and they are too dominant. That would be like somebody coming in right now and saying we're going to take on Major League Baseball. It would not happen.
Right.
So you have to come in thinking we are just going to be another league for you to come watch.
Yeah. But then is also you're now competing on when you have your games, and this becomes a different marketing standpoint when you're going to show those games, because if you're going to say, like the argument right now is there's too much NFL on Thursday nights, sometimes Saturday nights, Sunday nights, Monday night.
Well, here's the problem to that, though, is the Thursday night game is the issue.
Right.
You take away Thursday and everybody's just back to the traditional Sunday and Monday tilts.
Yeah.
People are fine.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is the oversaturation of football almost.
Right, yeah,
because I mean that's where the debate comes in.
Plus you got college football too.
Right.
I think the only thing, because I've been running through my head, you had the NFL, you had the AFL, and it's been a number of years since the NFL's had a traditional competition. I think if the XFL and Vince wanted to be smart about this, they would go about it the way Ice Cube went with the 3-on-3, whatever they call it, basketball, the big three, where it's got its fan base. Now, it's not monster, it's not huge. I don't know how much they're making money, but they're making enough money that they're still going. They've never tried to compete with the NBA. They've never said, oh, hey, we're the alternative if you don't like the NBA. They're just like, hey, if you like NBA and you want to see something a little different, here you go.
They're real niche.
Yeah, but that's their market point. But for the XFL, that's the whole thing, is they're saying they're the alternative to the NFL. So this is where the argument comes: is when is a good time to go? And if you're really hoping that you build off the want for football after the Super Bowl, that's where it gets real dicey.
Right. Well, I mean, because I'm thinking about now having it play in the fall, and I'm just doing that just to for the sake of it. There's no Friday. You could play Friday nights. Because Saturdays the stadiums are going to be used for college, and then Sundays is for the NFL. So it's like there's no real gap as far as that goes. But I mean, again, in the spring, it's just like we talked about. It's just people aren't looking for it.
No, people are definitely not thinking. It's not that time of year. So I guess to round out the segment, though, final thoughts, and let me pose this question to the panel: do you think the XFL survives this season and comes back for another one in 2021?
I am going to say yes for now, only because they have ESPN in their back, supporting them. So I will say yes for now, but I also hold my definitive answer until I see the rules.
I'll say yeah, just simply because, I mean, we look at the reason AAF failed and with the TV deal and the lack of money. They don't have either of those issues, at least on the surface right now.
I think it's going to be very telling of when the product hits the field, because for right now, everything is sounding really good for the XFL to return. They have a great network deal with marketable stations to show the games. Even on the streaming services, more sports are gravitating towards it. Being on ESPN, yeah, it's probably going to wind up on ESPN Plus without a question. But until we see the product on the field, that's the true telling sign. Now, are they going to go raid the AAF and bring those players onto the XFL? What is the talent going to look like? Because if the talent doesn't stand up, it doesn't matter how many programs you show during a week. If the content isn't there, nobody's going to watch. That's going to be the telling sign. And if I have to make a guess right now, I could see this being a one and done. I'm not rooting against it, but I'm just giving you my gut instinct on that. But hit us up on social media. You can follow our accounts on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Use the hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on the Giants with the number 6 pick? And what is your take on the XFL coming back? Are you excited? Are you not? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
2, 3, 4. Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we got to talk some basketball.
Holy crap, those games.
The NBA playoffs have been nothing short of amazing.
They've been great.
I'll say I love the competitiveness between all the teams. We got a couple of series that are tied 2-2. Nobody's really getting blown out. It's awesome to see.
It's great to see, because I know last episode we were really focusing on the Rockets versus Warriors, which has been a great series.
It's like a soap opera.
There's so much drama with that. But there was one game that overshadowed them since we last spoke.
Yeah.
4 overtimes.
I'll say I was having shades of Syracuse UConn from a couple of years ago.
4 overtimes.
Good God.
Denver, Portland.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, Coach?
I mean, that's a long night.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot of ice.
You got to worry about foul trouble. From a coaching standpoint, you got to worry about foul trouble. You got to worry about who's getting minutes. You got to worry about the fact that you got to play again in a couple days. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. This series is a lot of fun because Portland's playing some really, really good basketball right now. I mean, the way that they dominated Oklahoma City and the way that they just took it to them the entire time. I mean, Damian Lillard's on another planet right now.
Yeah.
And especially they have that shot which he iced Oklahoma City.
Right.
Already blown up on a billboard.
And their walk-up. Yeah, like you walk to the arena, it's on their wall of fame. Like every team, I think, does this, where it's like famous, shots and moments from out their team's history. like it's not even 2 weeks ago. It's already on a giant poster board in this Walk of Fame.
Pad, you got the stats on that game, though, don't you?
Yeah, so the final score ended up being 140 to 137 in a final of 4 overtimes. And I just got to shout out some of the minutes here because, my God, Paul Millsap, the Denver Nuggets, ended up playing 49 minutes. Nikolai Jokic of the Denver Nuggets played 65 minutes. Murray of the Nuggets played 55 minutes. Harris of the Nuggets played 50 minutes, and then switching over to the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, the easiest thing for me to say with the Portland Trailblazers, the starting 5 played 45 minutes or more, with the max being McCollum. They're playing 60 minutes. My God.
And each team had 4 guys not even play.
Yeah.
DNP coaches' decisions.
Yeah.
That was the wildest takeaway from that game. I mean, other than the play on the field, but just the fact that how many DNPs were involved.
Yeah.
And just to show, I mean, how this series, I know is getting overshadowed by the Rockets and Warriors, but, man, this has been some fun basketball to watch.
Looking at the team stats, I mean, the Denver Nuggets took 119 shots. The Trailblazers took 124 shots. Oh, my God.
You know, I mean, Denver's a young team, too. I mean, given the fact that Jokic, their star, is, you know, young. Millsap, obviously, has been there in Atlanta and had some good runs while that Atlanta team was together. But, I mean, this team is just coming off of surviving that series against San Antonio, which was physical and brutally hard fought, a good series for them to win. But then on the flip side of it, you got Portland, who is just, like I said earlier, they're just on another planet right now. Damian Lillard is playing out of his mind. As much as I don't want to give him credit for it, Enes Kanter is playing really well from a standpoint of, you know, he was notoriously bad on defense for the Knicks, and that's what it is. I don't care, but he was bad on defense, which is why Mitchell Robinson played over you. So right now, for him to be able to play defense on Jokic and stop him or at least limit him has been tremendous. And then obviously the unsung heroes like Al-Farouq Aminu, who I love. I think he's he's what the Rockets are missing right now, if you ask me.
Oh, big time.
And you know, Mo Harkless, who is obviously coming off an injury. I mean, he didn't have a great game in this game, but still he's able to provide minutes and play defense, and that's what they need on their end for Portland.
So you bring up Damian Lillard for the postseason. He's averaging just over 30 points a game with just over 6 assists a game, just over 4 rebounds a game. Dude's playing out of his mind.
And for Portland to get this far, because it's always been like, you know, the stigma on them that they couldn't get out of the first round.
Yeah. Will they break up C.J. McCollum and Dame Lillard? Can they, you know, take a team to the Western Conference Finals? Yeah, all of that storyline.
Right. Yeah. This is the year that they finally have broken through the glass ceiling. And I will say this outright: I think they're going to take this series. It's going to be close. It's not going to be runaway by any means. But I honestly think Portland's going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be a slugfest. It's definitely going to go 7.
Yeah, this is fun basketball to watch because, like we say, this gets overshadowed by what we talk about a lot because there's so many storylines. It's not even basketball. There's so many storylines going on between the Rockets and Warriors.
Well, there's just that rivalry and just the overall, you know, passion that those teams have for hate towards each other, you know, rivals that of like the Knicks and the Heat, where they met every year in the playoffs, and you knew that whoever won that series was going to eventually go on. It's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it's a ton of fun to watch.
It reminds me of one of those maybe old, like you said, old school basketball rivalries where like the two teams meet up. It doesn't matter when it is, you know, early in the season, middle, late, postseason, you know, Western Conference Finals, whatever it is, and they just don't like each other. That like they can just look at them, they can show up wearing whatever they're wearing, they can eat a turkey sandwich from Subway. They don't like them. And there's nothing they can say or anyone can say that'll change their minds about them.
No, this is one that we finally have a real rival for the Golden State Warriors now since their super team has been put together. Let's be honest. They've done a great job drafting.
Yeah.
The Warriors have and built this, you know, straight up juggernaut that is running through the Western Conference. So to finally see a team step up and give them a challenge like the Rockets have is really fun to watch because there's a true contention threat to them.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. And then going into how the game has been, we talked a little bit about the ref situation, but Coach, since you're in studio, what's your take here?
So I got a real problem because obviously it's, you know, the 15 year of the Donaghy scandal and everything, and ESPN, you know, republished that story with the additional findings that they didn't originally release. I got a real problem with the way that the players are questioning the referees because it's already a league that has sort of this stigma over them that, this can happen and did happen. So it's like, if I'm Adam Silver, don't you kind of think that you want to nip this in the butt by having these guys come out and especially what they're saying? It's not so much that they're questioning the ref because that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's what they're saying, though, that, they want them to win. They want this team to win. I know that they're trying to give them foul calls. That's a bad look.
1,000%.
Yeah.
It's just got to get back to, like we talked about this last episode. They just got to get back to playing the game. You can't worry about blown calls and then insinuating what they're insinuating. Is just like, stop.
Yeah.
You got beat by a better team that night.
Yeah.
You want to do something about it? Show up the next night and do something.
Sure, I can understand that it's frustrating when Giannis, talking about, Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee and having him have 30 foul shots. That can be frustrating. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, if the refs are calling the fouls, it's not because they're trying to make the Warriors win. It's just what they're seeing at the time on the court. And
exactly.
Yes, it's frustrating, but the perfect example is when Chris Paul went up for a jump shot and he thought his arm got hit and he questioned the ref instead of running back. And then Steph Curry got hit with that fast break pass in stride and he was able to hit that layup. You got to get back on defense. You can't let that happen.
Yeah, it's one thing to kind of go and question the refs and do all that, but like at the same token, if you're shooting like 20% from the floor, you also got to kind of look at the mirror on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Pat broke down the stats of that game easy, and the Rockets had nothing to say other than shoot better.
Well, and I loved what Scott Van Pelt did on ESPN too, where he broke down James Harden when he shoots with contact or shoots with a defender on him versus not.
I saw that.
Which is crazy telling because when he does, he kicks his leg out like Reggie Miller used to do, and I remember it very well.
We know.
Because I was horrified by it for my entire life. So yeah, I mean, the referees know that you're going to do that. They know your tendencies. They know what you're looking to do. They watch film and tape, so they see that you kick your leg out, and they're not going to give you the call at the end of the day because they know what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, but outside of that, though, this series has been tremendous. This Rockets team, I think, is very undermanned to what it's been before when they had Trevor Ariza and Al-Farouq Aminu. So, to them to be able to still compete, just is another pat in the back to James Harden because obviously it's him that's being able to carry this team. Especially
dealing with his eye injury or whatever the extent of that is, getting accidentally poked by Draymond Green. I mean, just to see him come back and doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Honestly, to see the Rockets contend as well as they are, and especially the losses they've had. I mean, it's a different team than the one they had last year.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's night and day different.
It's night and day difference, and the fact they're still hanging with the Warriors and they're still giving them a run is truly telling of what the job they're doing down in Houston.
And I'll say this real quick because James Harden's usage this year was the highest of any player in the NBA history.
Right.
And let's not forget 3 years ago when James Harden's usage wasn't even nearly as high as it was. He, crapped the bed the last 2 games of that series against Oklahoma City and wasn't even there and present to help lead the team. I mean, he basically sat the last 4 minutes of Game 6.
Right. So looking at the regular season, he played in 78 games with an average of 36.8 minutes per game.
Yeah, and not just that though. They ran isolation sets, especially when Chris Paul was down, Capella was down. I mean, he was literally handling the ball 80% of the time. So the demand on his body was way higher than what it was even 3 years ago, and he's still kicking at all cylinders.
Yeah, he's playing at such a high level. Just the question now becomes, can he get over the hump against Golden State? Can he take the Rockets to the finals?
I mean, I don't know about this year.
I don't know.
Kevin Durant, too, on the flip side of things, has played very, very well because Steph Curry's not.
No. Curry's playing hurt, admittedly, but no, Durant's picking up the slack and then some.
Durant's picking up the slack because obviously this will probably be his swan song. This is his swan song from Golden State. I'm sorry, my unofficial ODPH guy says he will be a Knick next season.
We can go into that when the July 1st hits, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you almost feel like the writing's on the wall because you almost feel him trying to spread his wings a little bit by, because this is the thing, though, is everybody, when he went to Golden State was, all right, he's got to join the super team to win a championship. And I kind of think that that's in the back of his mind very much so.
I think the reaction he got, he was not prepared for.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because now he's definitely like, let me show you what's up.
Yeah, and he wants to make that statement because if he carries, let's just throw this out there. He carries Golden State, obviously because they're dealing with injuries. So I'm saying he's going to carry them to the finals and if he wins the championship. And then he says he leaves.
Right.
How enticing is that for other free agents to go, I saw the one-man show he did in Golden State. I want to be part of that when he goes to New York and builds that franchise up.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at stats for this postseason. Kevin Durant currently averaging 35.6 points per game.
That's wild.
Steph Curry 22.6 points per game. Klay Thompson 17.1 points per game.
It is absolutely crazy.
35 points a freaking game, people.
In 9 games.
That's insane.
And you don't want to be on that guy's team when
that's MVP-esque.
Right.
I should also add averaging 5 assists and 5 boards.
He will be
That's nuts.
He will be the big domino to fall wherever he goes next year. Because Coach Duffy and I have said long time, he will be in New York next year.
We also thought a lot of things about LeBron, and that also went the way we didn't expect. So who knows?
Yeah, there's something else about him right now that it's just you feel it. You just when you watch the TV and you see him play, you're like, this guy needs to be in the Mecca. This guy needs to be in the Garden. He needs to be the team.
Yeah.
Not a cog in the wheel. This guy needs to be the franchise player and know that he is.
And that's what I think he's feeling, and that's why I seriously think he's going to lead them to win a championship. I think as much as I love Portland right now, I still think it's Golden State's league.
No, listen, Portland will give them a run because Dame Lillard, that if it happens, Dame Lillard will be able to get buckets, and they're not going to be able to stop him defensively. But Kevin Durant is going to be too much for that team.
Yeah, and I think no matter who comes out of the East, he's going to be too much. And I think once he wins, I mean, there's
a guy in Milwaukee who's pretty big himself,
right? But he's got to get by Boston, so we got to wait and see about that.
That series is great too.
Yeah,
that series is awesome.
The whole NBA playoffs have been great. I mean, we have not even tugged into really Toronto and Philly too.
I'll say that these second round matchups have been tremendous because the first round was kind of meh. There was some highs and some lows. But then you get to the second round, and I mean, this has been slug out. It's been really good basketball.
Yeah. This has been what I've missed as a fan for many years. Because I do love the NBA. I don't talk about it that much outside on the social media, but I do love the NBA when they start playing defense, and it's those gritty back and forth games. And it just reminds me, for me, the perfect era of the NBA was the 90s.
Well, right.
You know what it feels like too is the 2000s Western Conference when it was like the 1 seed would have been like maybe San Antonio, but then the Lakers would have been 2, Utah would have been 3, and then Phoenix was 4, and then you would have had that 4 versus 1 San Antonio, that 2-3 Lakers Utah matchup that would have just been a drag out slugfest, and any one of those teams could advance to the championship game. It's just that's where the seeds, that's where the cookie crumbled.
Absolutely,
and it's both of them. It's both conferences. It's the East and the West. Because the 4 seeds Boston right now, and they're taking it to Milwaukee right now.
I think the other thing a lot of people, including myself, are more excited about these NBA playoffs is because obviously for the first time in Lord knows how many years, this is the first year LeBron's not in the playoffs. Now, and what I mean by that is not just simply the fact, he's out of the playoffs. It's, in the number of years he's been in the NBA playoffs, it's always been a LeBron James in the finals, and we'll just pen him right there to the finals through the Eastern Conference. And then on the flip side, you've got the Golden State Warriors who are playing through, and admittedly, they're the Golden State Warriors. I mean, they're my pencil, finals pick until I see otherwise, because they are still the defending champs, and until they are no longer in the playoffs or in contention for the championship, you got to give them their due. But I think that even if they do make it to the NBA Finals, this is the first year that you legitimately could have a team out of the Eastern Conference, not named the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, beat them.
1 through 4 if I'm Golden State, I'm worried.
Yeah.
I definitely would be too. So let's wrap this up with giving your predictions. Who do you think makes it out of the East, and who do you think makes it out of the West? Let me hit you right on the spot, Coach.
I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be Milwaukee. I think Giannis is gonna be too much down the stretch. Him versus Kawhi or him versus Ben Simmons, which is already a heated rivalry from the regular season, will be a lot of fun in the Eastern Conference title game. And just Golden State. It will be too much.
I think it's gonna be Philly and Golden State.
I think it's going to be Philly and Golden State too, and it will remind me of when the super team of Miami took on a young upstart Oklahoma City team.
Yeah,
I think fair. I think Philly just kind of reminds me of just that young Oklahoma City team, and I don't know why, but they just do.
I think them going to the NBA Finals though keeps Jimmy Butler there.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think if he gets to the finals, it's going to be a lock. He stays there.
Yeah.
We'll say matchups as we look at them are Milwaukee and Boston Game 4, and then also Golden State at Houston Game 4 are tonight on Monday night as we record. Then you've got Philly and Toronto and Portland and Denver on Tuesday night. All those 4 games are on TNT.
And what's even crazier is, let's just say that what we said with KD and Kyrie come to the Knicks. They're still going to be good team. Boston's still going to be good without Kyrie.
Yeah,
And Golden State's still going to be good without KD. So it's going to add another team to the fold next year. Basketball is going to be a lot of fun when New York is good, guys. Just bear and wait with us, because it'll be a lot of fun next year.
Just wait till draft night when Zion is taken number 1 by the Knicks, and then we get Kyrie and KD.
We got to hold on. We're one thing at a time. We got to get through the ping pong balls first. Then we can start talking that.
Hey, Patrick Ewing is going to be a representative that night. I feel the karma.
He's going to pay it forward.
It's going to happen. But hit us up on the social media. You know the drill. Hit us up with that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the NBA playoffs? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we got to talk a little UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Great fight up in Ottawa this past weekend.
Yeah.
The fight card was kind of okay.
Yeah.
But the main event delivered.
Good Lord.
Raging Ally Quinta versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone.
Rock'em sock'em robots.
Absolutely.
Holy cow.
We knew this one was going to be fireworks. It did not let us down.
I'll say, if you have ESPN Plus, I know you can replay the fights. Specifically, the Donald Cerrone Ally and Quinta fight is worth watching.
Absolutely, because Iaquinta came out and definitely took the first couple rounds. Mm-hmm. And he was definitely imposing as well, because Iaquinta is no joke. He's been around the 155 division. He went the distance with Habib.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know who he is, he went the distance with Habib.
With Habib, who fought bears.
Yes, with Habib, who is the GOAT of the 155 division. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest about this. Cerrone, you know his pedigree.
Dad strength.
Ever since he has become a father, and he's been on a tear since returning.
Bulldog,
2-0, 3-0, something like that.
I think he's now 3-0. He has absolutely looked phenomenal. He got away from that slow start. Except for this fight, he did start off very slow.
Yeah, both fighters did, though.
Well, both did, but I think Iaquinta knows what Cerrone is bringing to the table. Because, I mean, Cerrone, definitely against his last fight against Alexander Hernandez, and just the display he put on that young lion was incredible. So Cerrone, like we said, has been on fire. But Iaquinta weathered the storm, and he was definitely landing shots early.
Yeah.
That first round, he was peppering Cerrone. Yeah. And, I mean, Cerrone has definitely gone through some battles in his career.
Let's say, isn't he like the UFC wins leader or something absurd like that?
Most fights, I think.
Like, you don't get to that level without learning some stuff.
He is definitely in that contention. I can't remember the exact stat off my head, but he has been around between WEC and UFC. So to see him go in this fight, it was against Iaquinta, and just the sheer striking in this was just phenomenal. But by the end of the second round, Cerrone started looking like he was finally waking up. Like it wasn't, like I said, his typical slow start. He finally looked like he was kicking in. And then that third round, like, I don't know what went off.
It's like he flipped a switch and got all angry.
He flipped that switch. He started hitting those leg kicks. I mean, Iaquinta's leg just started turning purple there.
Yeah.
And he started making his right eye swell shut.
Yeah.
He was landing combos. Yeah. And he took over in that fourth round.
It was one of those fights where, like, if you go back and you watch the fight on ESPN Plus, like, and you pause it where you can see his face, especially in the fourth and fifth round, the brows are furrowed. He's not smiling at all. It's like just a look of anger on this man's face that just screams, don't get in front of him.
Right, because Cerrone, he knows what's at stake now. This is more legacy now, and if he wants to be in title contention at this stage, he needs to dominate performances. He absolutely has to. There is no question of this. So for him to come in here and do what he does is absolutely, to see it at this stage is phenomenal. Yeah. And like we said, he took over that fourth round, and Iaquinta stayed in the battle. It wasn't like he got completely washed in in the fourth.
It's not like he bumbled and stumbled his way to the finish.
Right, but when Cerrone hit him with that front kick to the face and knocked him down, I think they said that was the first time Iaquinta's been knocked down.
Yes.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And that kick was straight up Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort, except there wasn't a knockout.
Yeah.
But Cerrone definitely turned it on late in those rounds, and he looked phenomenal going into that. And to follow up, Pad, most UFC wins in UFC history is Cerrone with 23 and most knockdowns with 20.
Right.
So that is his stats going into there. And then after the fight, obviously, Cerrone likes to stay busy.
Yes.
Who did he call out, Coach? Who did he call out? One Conor McGregor.
That's right, baby.
And I particularly enjoyed the day he suggested fighting Conor McGregor on 4th of July.
Yes.
All due respect to Conor McGregor, you are an interesting individual, to say the least. You ain't winning against Donald Cowboy Cerrone on America's birthday.
I mean, that would be... listen, I mean, yeah, it's America's birthday, but we Irish. I mean, even if you're American Irish, you're still proud of that Irish heritage. That would be a lot of fun. That might be like a boo-yeah situation,
But I'll say I would be willing to guess that if, of course, Cerrone is sponsored by Budweiser, he knocks out or he beats Conor McGregor, and this is if it happens on 4th of July, he will get as much Budweiser for the rest of his life as he wants.
Well, let me put this in perspective, though. If he fought on July 4th this year, it would be a Thursday. They're not going to do that fight on a Thursday.
Darn it.
The pay-per-view would be July 6th.
Close enough.
Because that's International Fight Week. And that could main event.
That's a win-win.
That's a main event.
That's a win-win. But Cerrone also said he wants to get the title shot. And I have a proposal. We did the Twitter poll, and everybody was saying do Conor on that. And everyone wants to see the fight there. Let me throw this to the panel.
Okay.
All right. Habib is not fighting until, I think, September now was the date he was kind of penciled in. He wants to come back, but unless he wants to wait out till November. So let me throw this in there. Dustin Poirier is there. I haven't heard too much about a medical suspension, but I could imagine that this could be something that he's out for a little while. But would that put him in right around, I don't know, July, August range since the last fight?
Yeah.
Give, take. Would you do the fight, him versus Poirier, winner gets Habib, or would you do Cowboy versus Conor?
I mean, I think both fighters want it, so I would probably do Conor and Cerrone.
Excuse me, if they can get Conor back, because as of this recording, the early part of May, Conor is still retired. Conor, obviously, if he comes back, is going to want to fight for the title. Excuse me. And if you can make him fight, get the fight with him and Cowboy going, I think he'd be all for that because, A, he sees the dollar signs, and that would be a big money fight. And then you can say to Conor, all right, hey, you beat him. You can say to both of them, hey, you beat your opponent, you get the next title shot.
Yeah, that would definitely be a number one contender match in my opinion. I think Poirier versus Habib, that's a great fight, and both of those fighters want to do it. I think that's penciled in for September. They don't need to really rush it. I think that you let that one build up, and you can definitely build a storyline there. And then on the sidelines, you have the winner of Conor versus Cerrone fight the winner. Now, for Conor, this is the big money fight that he wants to do. I think for the UFC, especially with Brock Lesnar now not coming back to the UFC, and they've now booked Cormier versus Miocic too, which is the right call to make. We posted this on the blogs on Parlay Points. That this is the big fight the UFC wants. That this will draw the ratings in. You can definitely build a card around this fight, and no matter where you put this, I mean, this is going to be your must-watch fight of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do something. Fight week needs to be. I mean, don't they normally have fights throughout the week, though? Isn't that normally what they do with a big Saturday night event? Well,
they've typically done it for International Fight Week. They've had the end of The Ultimate Fighter on, I think, like Thursday or Friday night before, and they have a big event planned out.
Right, yeah, because I feel like I don't know why I remember this vague, but I remember like the lead up to the weekend, there was like a fight night, and then Saturday night would be like the big, whatever card they can get together from whoever's suspended, medically suspended or not, would fight that Saturday night. So, yeah, I mean, if they can't line anything up right now, I mean, putting Conor in that spot would be huge.
I think it would be. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that is a fight that has been long rumored, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't gotten done yet.
I'm going to break some hearts here. That fight week that we all hoped this would happen on, that ain't going to happen. That card is stacked to the nines.
I knew
that is that's UFC 239, which is being headlined by John Jones versus Thiago Santos. Co-maining is Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm. Then you got Francis Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos.
Oh yeah, that card is stacked. But let's just throw something out there. This year they're not doing an Ultimate Fighter finale,
right?
So would you do Friday night, Conor versus Cerrone?
Why not?
And then do Saturday night that main card?
And put that on ESPN, baby.
Yeah, put that on cable.
They're already doing a card the 29th of June. That is UFC on ESPN 2. UFC on ESPN where it's Tyron Woodley versus Robbie Lawler 2.
All right, but quit being the bad news.
But wait, what weekend is that?
That's the 29th. It's the weekend before.
Right, so you just do it the July the 5th.
That's a lot.
You stack in, but I'm telling
That's
you what,
a lot of fights.
International Fight Week, you could do this.
I mean, if you put it on ESPN, yeah, it's not going to really bug anybody down, you know?
Yeah. Or you go to, Cerrone doesn't want to wait that long, so he definitely wants that fight early. Either way, that's the fight you make. I think you have to. I mean, I wouldn't struggle if he did fight Poirier, though. In the meantime, if Khabib did not want to come back as early as September, I mean, whenever he wants to come back, that's the fight you do. Poirier or whoever the interim champ is versus Khabib. But if they want to do Poirier versus Cerrone, I'd be okay with that. But I tell you what, Conor and Cerrone, that is headlines. That is
Cha-ching.
You put that on mainstream TV in the States, you will get ratings. You will get whatever you want to do for that. That is a big money fight.
Oh yeah.
But take nothing away from this weekend though, Pat.
No, you've got UFC 237, Thug Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade.
Now that is the headline main event of the card for the women's strawweight title.
Mm-hmm.
But the undercard and the main card both have two standout fights that we just can't pass up here on the pad.
Well, so yeah, if you're on the undercard, if you're looking for a legacy fight, a little nostalgia fight on the preliminary card on ESPN, you have BJ Penn returning to fight Clay Guida.
Coach, your thoughts on this?
I mean, like we were talking about, why? I mean, this is Attitude Era-esque WWE booking, like bringing back two veterans to sell some tickets because they're afraid the event's not going to sell.
Yeah.
BJ Penn is what, 43?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I mean, and Clay Guida is 100.
He's 37.
So he's, I mean, all right, but in the fight years, he's probably like 100. I mean,
yeah.
This is going to be, if not done in the first round because of exhaustion, it's not going 3.
I mean, just looking at BJ Penn's, and this isn't to crap on the guy. He's a very good fighter.
I love BJ Penn. One of the best. Nothing but respect.
BJ's up there, man. He's
one of the best of all
goats.
time. One of the best of all time. But like his last win was against Matt Hughes at UFC 123 in 2010. It was a majority draw against John Fitch in UFC 127 in 2011. He's then lost to Nick Diaz, Rory McDonald, Frankie Edgar, Yair Rodriguez, Dennis Silver, and Ryan Hall.
I'm with Coach on this one. Like, listen, I love both fighters. Clay Guida is the man, and if you ever want to see just a sheer war he went through, him versus Diego Sanchez, the craziest first round I have ever seen in MMA, personally. Clay's a warrior. BJ, his legacy at 155 in his prime, nobody was going near him, and he's one of the guys that didn't back down from going for a super fight against GSP at the time. He has always been a guy that will scrap and just put on a show. Albeit, though, at this stage in the game, and I keep thinking back when he fought Frankie Edgar, and Frankie, I don't want to see him fight again. I think let him go out on his shield, let him do something else. I don't want to see this fight just for the sheer fact of I think the fight game has gone past him at this stage, and take nothing away from his career. Absolutely nothing. BJ is up in the GOAT discussion. His run at 155 is legendary, but this one, like,
I don't see the need to come back and fight, of all people, Clay Guida.
Yeah, I mean Clay is a great fighter too, but it's just both those guys are on the back ends of the careers. Just father time is catching up with them.
I'll say Clay Guida's last fight was at UFC 225 back on June 9th, 2018, where he was submitted by Charles Oliveira. So this will almost be a calendar year since his last fight, and prior to that was his last win, where he knocked out Joe Lozon in November of 2017.
I mean, for nostalgia reasons, I will watch this, but I'm not amped up for it.
It's almost like they booked it just to maybe have these two ever fought before. I don't think they have. So maybe it's just like, both guys just saying, "Hey, we never got to do this in our prime. Let's do this now."
Yeah, this is just something that to do it, I guess. And for nostalgia reasons, yeah, sure, this is a good one. But I think if I'm looking for anything other than the main event, I'm looking for Jose Aldo versus Alexander Volkanovski.
Mm-hmm.
This one at featherweight. You talk about legacies. You talk about GOAT conversations.
I'm talking about teeth are going to be flying.
If Jose Aldo is, I know, planning on writing out a few more fights, and then he's going to go retire from last I heard. Albeit, though, I thought this fight was going to be canceled because I know there was like a medical issue that he was that they brought up to Dana White, I think, actually at a post-fight, saying that he was in the hospital for something.
Yeah, and Dana White said, "Oh, this is the first I'm hearing about it."
Right, but if Aldo's ready to go, he's got a very, very tough opponent in Volkanovski.
Yeah, who legitimately, in his mixed martial arts career, he has one loss, and that is during an Australia Fighting Championship back in May 10th of 2013. Since then, he has not lost anywhere he has fought.
Right, so this one, albeit... This is going to be a definite test for Volkanovski. I do like him in this fight, though. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Take nothing away from Aldo. One of the best to ever do it at 145. I would have loved to seen him step up at 155, but it never happened. And for him, if Volkanovski can survive the leg kicks, he's got a great shot at taking this one.
I'll say the leg kicks and just the punches from Aldo, because his last two fights have been TKO wins, with punches being the listed reason for knocking the person out.
Yeah, this one could definitely go a lot of different directions.
But also two back-to-back performances of the night for Jose Aldo.
Yeah, I think this one is going to definitely steal the show.
It's a measuring stick.
It's going to be up there with the main event, Thug Rose versus Jessica Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, you got any feelings on this one?
Boy, it's going to be real tough to call, but just there's something about Thug Rose, man. She's just got that aura about her where, you don't want to mess with this girl. You can test her, you can definitely challenge her, but I just see her pulling out. It's not going to be an easy one. I'm going to say something in the fourth round.
Coach, you got any feelings on this, or are you riding with me on this one?
I mean, to have a nickname like that, that's intimidating as shit. Thug Rose? I mean, I don't want to step in the octagon with her. No way.
To see what she has done since she's gotten her title shot, and she defeated the mystique of Joanna Jędrzejczyk,
Twice.
That had to send so much of a message to every other fighter in the women's 115 division. It's crazy to go against her. Now, Andrade is no joke, though. She will definitely scrap with Thug Rose. But I tell you what, right now, Namajunas is looking phenomenal, and she is definitely carving her niche in the UFC record books, and just the statement fight she's doing, like I say, to take out Jędrzejczyk in the fashion she has is wild. Because, I mean, we all thought if there was going to be a women's champ to begin with, it was going to be Jędrzejczyk. That we thought, okay, she could win at 115, and then she was talking about going up to bantamweight, I think, at one point, and she is a phenomenal fighter. So don't let us downplay of Rose beating her twice. Jędrzejczyk was the division for a good stretch of time, and nobody was coming close.
Yeah.
Thug Rose has come along, and she is definitely making some statements. This one is going to be one you don't want to blink.
No.
I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Rose in the fourth.
Okay.
By TKO. I'm just going to put it out there. It's going to be a great night of fights this Saturday. ESPN Plus, if you're in the States, wherever you watch it, if you're listening to us overseas or outside the country, and we do appreciate your listenership. Hit us up on that hashtag, though. Hashtag ODPH. Join in the conversation on social media. What is your thoughts of UFC Ottawa with Cerrone and Iaquinta? And what's your thoughts of this weekend's UFC card? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Seatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shake radio attack, taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, we got to talk that local minute, Pat.
Got to talk a little bit of Binghamton Rumble Ponies action because they did have some games over the weekend. On Saturday, the 27th, they split a doubleheader, winning the first one and losing the second one. Then on Sunday, they had another postponement due to inclement weather. Will be made up on the 1st of June. Then they switched to a series against Akron where they won the first. They lost the first one 5-9, won the second one 1-0, and then for the rest of their week's games, they won 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they lost just 2 more. So looking at this week's games, they got a 3-game set against Harrisburg in the middle of this week before they return home for a couple games against New Hampshire and then 3 games against Altoona. And then looking at the standings, they are currently tied for first place.
Right on.
With the Trenton Thunder, both teams have a 16-10 record. But of course, alphabetically, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies are listed in first place.
We take that win.
Yes. More information, bingrp.com.
And now, Coach,
Let's go.
do you want to break the news?
Go ahead. You got queued up. I'll let you do it.
So, per the press release by ABA Chief Executive Officer Joe Newman, quote, the ABA Elite 8 and All-Star Game are for the 2019-2020 season are heading to New York. Jim Evans and the Binghamton Bulldogs have been selected as the host team. That's right, folks.
Yeah, baby.
The Elite 8 will run Wednesday, April 1st through Saturday, April 4th, with the ABA All-Star Game taking place the following day, Sunday, April 5th. This will likely work, or likely about this. This will work out great as many of the All-Stars will likely already be in Binghamton.
Yo.
So let's break this down. We put this out. You will this into the universe, and sometimes it happens for you. So congratulations to Jim Evans and the Binghamton Bulldogs organization.
Tremendous.
Mark the calendar now.
Get your tickets as soon as they come out, man.
When they drop, we will be letting everybody know here.
Now, the location is TBD.
Yes.
So hopefully they can find a venue that can accommodate people properly because we need to fill this out, people. This needs to be a great event, not only for the Bulldogs, but for Jimmy Evans, who has worked his tail off to put a franchise in Binghamton, to have it be one of the funnest and good family events locally for people to go do during the winter time. Hockey is, let's just be honest here. The Devils, downtown Binghamton's unaccommodating right now from a standpoint of parking your car and getting to the arena. They have provided something that is cheap and affordable that families can go do. Please come out and support this and make this a big event.
We can't say enough nice things about the Binghamton Bulldogs organization. They have been very, very good to us here at the ODPH. Jim Evans has granted us a lot of time and a lot of great, gracious interviews over the years to talk about Binghamton Bulldogs basketball. We love talking about the ABA games. We go to the ABA games.
We're there.
There's no we don't go to them. You see us in the stands. We're always talking with people. To see this event come to Binghamton, April 1st through April 5th, 2020, is a huge, huge, huge deal.
I mean, let's just talk about the fact that last year was in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
The year before was in Florida?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Texas. It was Texas.
Yes, another big, big city state. So having them come here to Binghamton, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. There was a long shot. Even Jim said on his Facebook that this was going to be a long shot. And like you said, Ken, you put that good karma out in the air and good things happen to you.
Absolutely. So we here at the ODPH are going to do whatever we can to help support this. We are going to be driving.
We'll be there, baby.
We're going to be there all 4 days probably. 5 days, whatever it is. We might be there early.
Yeah.
We might be there like March 30th.
Might even host a live show.
We're putting that out there, Jim. You know us.
Hey, if the Bulldogs make it to the ABA finals while they're here hosting it, absolutely live show.
Live show. We will do it. Sound Guy Galore JR will come back on.
We'll do something. I don't care how we make it work. It'll happen.
We're going to make this happen, but just importantly, we just cannot congratulate Jim Evans and the rest of the Binghamton Bulldogs crew on pulling this off. And like we say, I mean, this is such a huge event for Binghamton, and with hockey going on too, and this has always been a hockey town. This is hockey county over here. And going to the Devils games, I mean, it's always a fun experience. We're not taking anything away from that.
No, I'm just saying I got four small kids, Ken. It is not easy now that the parking ramp's not there to get 4 small kids downtown, okay?
No, I fully get that, but they are working on that too. But
Okay.
we support all local sports here in the 6-0 Lucky, and like the quote said, this will work out great, as many All-Stars will likely be in Binghamton already.
Yeah, because 5 of them are going to come from the Bulldogs.
Exactly. So we shout you out. More information on this, Binghamton Bulldogs Facebook and binghamtonbulldogs.com. Go out there, give them a congratulations. Find them on Instagram too. We will post the links later. Congratulations again. We cannot say it enough, and we can't wait to see this happen next year.
It's awesome. It's great. I mean, Jim literally said that this was going to be a long shot, that they hold it in big cities, and the likelihood that it comes to Binghamton slim to none. And they put together obviously what was a great presentation, and here they go.
It's a testament to the fan base and the loyal Dog Pound crew. However you want to define the fan base, you made it happen. Now you got to get more people down there, because we want to make this the event.
That's right.
Of the spring of 2020. No questions about it. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. We will get into it more off air. But going into rounding those bases, Pad, why don't you lead us off?
Well, of course, I got to talk a little bit of baseball, as I am a big baseball fan. Shout out to Hunter Renfroe of the San Diego Padres, who hit a walk-off grand slam over the weekend against the LA Dodgers. No bigger feeling in his career thus far. You go watch the video. I'm pretty sure his feet didn't touch the ground the entire time, because he was just that excited. But of course, New York Yankees are in second place, just 2 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays. The Yankees are, of course, starting a 4-game series tonight against the Seattle Mariners before they travel down to Tampa. So who would have thought a couple of years ago, traveling to Tampa, big implications. Yeah, of course, one of the biggest stories also over the weekend was the Kentucky Derby. Now, the Kentucky Derby is always an event between the hats and the dresses, and the horse names are my personal favorite thing of the weekend, just some of the wild names that people come up with for those horses. But that's not even the biggest thing. Of course, you had the 145th running of the Kentucky Derby over the weekend, and a little bit of interesting controversy, because as you know, the favorite did not win, because the Maximum Security was the favorite going into the Kentucky Derby with, I believe, if I saw during the broadcast right, it was like 9-2 odds or something like that. So they go and they run the race, and Maximum Security wins, by not a huge length, but a fairly decent size in horse racing, I guess. I'm not an avid, horse race watcher. I watch the big 3, and then that's kind of it. So now, admittedly, myself saw the horse win, turned it off, and headed out to go watch the UFC card that weekend. All of Twitter exploded in the 5 minutes I left my apartment and went to go watch the UFC fight, because as we then found out, Maximum Security was disqualified. And I, for the longest time, couldn't figure out why. Come to find out, apparently it's a rule in horse racing where you are not allowed to impede the lane of horses behind you. And I guess if you go back and watch the video, Maximum Security impedes the lane of 2 horses that were behind them, thus leading, because, I guess a coworker was telling me that during the race, Maximum Security crossed the finish line, and Maximum Security wins the Kentucky Derby, but then they wouldn't officially call it, because you see the unofficial times whenever the horse wins the Kentucky Derby, and then they post the official times, and they're so down to a science with that at this point. I mean, they've been running it this long. So then they wouldn't officially call it, and then they're reviewing the footage, and then you get to Maximum Security didn't win the Kentucky Derby, he was disqualified. Country House ended up winning the Kentucky Derby. Now the wild thing with this year's Kentucky Derby, there was a record $165.5 million bet on the Kentucky Derby, which is up 10% from last year's record of $149.9 million. Now, you got to be wondering, if you were a betting aficionado or have done any amount of betting in your life, how much was lost because
I don't even want to think about this. This is going to make me sick.
$9 million.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, the DQ cost bettors around $9 million, and that's not even counting the people who thought their horse lost, tore it up, and hey, you shouldn't have torn it up. Your guy won.
to be in a sports book.
Way to twist the knife.
When this happens, I would just left. I would not have stayed around.
Didn't even think about the people that ripped up their ticket.
There's a video floating around on Twitter, I know, and you can probably find it on YouTube by this point, where somebody was standing outside in Churchill Downs, where you go to place your bets on the horses, and there are, of course, TV screens over the thing, and somebody was smart enough and recorded the moment it got announced that maximum security was disqualified, and then the other horse won, and there was a cavalcade of oh my god, and people just elated. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen.
To say this is a just indescribable event,
it's never happened.
I don't even know where you begin, and just the one thing I'll always say: if you decide to bet at a casino or sports book, hang on to your ticket.
Take a photo of it.
Don't rip it up right away. Rip it up when you get home, or rip it up like the next day. You don't get rid of it just right then and there. You might be in the heat of the moment, but stuff like this happens. But this is
yeah, and of course, as big a story as it is, the owner of the horse, Gary West, was on the Today Show on Monday, and he told, he said, quote, "We're going to file an appeal today with the State Racing Commission. Right after the race, I had the trainer call the stewards and very nicely ask them if they would be willing to visit with us after the races were over. I said, we'll stay here until 11, 12 o'clock at night, whatever you want. And they said, absolutely not. We won't be showing the films until Thursday. We didn't really have any alternative legally. The appeal has been filed has to be filed within 48 hours. So they're going to file an appeal. He also has gone on to say that maximum security will not be in the Preakness.
That's probably a fair point at this stage, because
it's just going to cause a whole circus if the horse shows up.
Coach.
Yeah, so while everybody was watching the horse race, I was watching a weekend full of lacrosse, as it was the conference championship games, which in lacrosse mean a great deal because there's only 8 at-large teams that get in. So winning your conference tournament, if you're a team on the bubble, is pivotal. So a team like High Point, who plays in the MAC, who was in the top 5 all year, and a bubble team going into the tournament, they lose their conference title game, and now they are watching this weekend at home. So it was a big weekend. The brackets came out last night. Just some games to be on the lookout for if you got nothing going on this weekend. I know Saturday at noon, Syracuse plays Loyola, who has Syracuse has one of the best defensemen in the nation in Nick Mellon, going up against the best attackman arguably in the nation in Pat Spencer. So that's going to be a really fun matchup. A lot of people were hoping that these two were going to play. I personally was hoping that this was going to be a Syracuse home game. Unfortunately, they did not get the nod, and Loyola is the higher seed, so that game will be at Loyola. And then another game that's going to be fun this weekend will be Notre Dame versus Johns Hopkins. Both teams were on the bubble. Johns Hopkins coming off an amazing Big Ten championship game that went to overtime. Crazy game, back and forth. Johns Hopkins had lost to Penn State the week before by score 20-9, and then they come back in this game and go into overtime, tied at 17. Penn State ultimately prevailed to win the Big Ten title. It was nuts. I can't even speak to this game. It was probably one of the greatest games I've ever watched. So the Johns Hopkins and Notre Dame play, I believe, Sunday at noon. So, just a lot of games, a lot of fun. Obviously, Final Four weekend's coming up, Memorial Weekend. That's just it's a great time in lacrosse, a lot of fun. So it's in Philadelphia this year. They're going to hold it at the Eagles Stadium. So a lot of fun. Like I said, just if you want to watch some lacrosse and you're bored, there are games on.
Any early predictions on who takes it home?
Oh, Penn State's a goddamn good team, man. They are unreal. This kid, Ament, is the real deal. They got a lefty who can finish at the net, and their defense is tough. And I mean, obviously, if we're going to go, an America East team, UMBC. Guys, this is wild. UMBC was the 4th seed going into the conference tournament. Not only did they beat the number 1 seed in Stony Brook, but then they end up beating the 2 seed in Vermont. I mean, UMBC just has a knack for this. This is crazy. So they have to play number 1 Penn State. I do not see them upsetting a Penn State team. But a team that I also like that's outside of them would probably actually be Virginia's a very good team, but I'm going to go Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
They're playing really, really good lacrosse right now. Unfortunately, Notre Dame has to play them in the first game, which breaks my heart because I don't see Notre Dame able to pull that out. So right now, I'd go Penn State winning it easily. But Syracuse and Loyola will be a lot of fun. That's going to be a great matchup there with Mellon and Pat Spencer. I can't stress that enough. Pat Spencer is going to go on to play Division I basketball next year. He's actually going to transfer, use his 5th year of eligibility. So that's the good of the athlete the kid is. That he's going to be. He was actually sought out as a Division I basketball player, but chose lacrosse. So yeah, that's the kind of athlete that he is. So be on the lookout for that.
Definitely some good lacrosse coming up, so definitely stay tuned for that. So mine, I'm going to talk a little boxing and a little talk MMA still. I mean, past weekend, Canelo defeated Daniel Jacobs, and Triple G got on social media and definitely let it be known he was not impressed with that performance, to quote GSP. So I don't know if they're trying to do Canelo Triple G 3.
I think so.
I don't. Like, listen.
Why? Why? I feel like I say this the whole podcast. Why?
See, here's my take on this. Triple G won both fights. I have almost no interest to see this because, in my eyes, he was robbed of the title, and it's nothing against Canelo. Canelo's a great boxer, but Triple G beat him outright.
Could you imagine charging people for 3 pay-per-view a trilogy where it's, arguably not? I mean, is there a want for it? I mean,
there is amongst boxing fans because these guys are 2 of the pound-for-pound best guys.
Is it just because the first fight was so controversial?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say so because, for me, I'm just like, really?
Right, exactly.
Because I'm like, Triple G won this outright.
I mean, the only reason why it's probably such a want is just to have an ultimate winner of the series, right?
Well, yeah, because there's so much controversy involved in it, but I'm just like, you know what, I can't get up for this one. Like, I'm sure when the fight comes around, I'll probably have to watch it on the Zone. I keep calling it DAZN, but it's the Zone streaming.
I know, I do the same thing.
Because
it's terrible branding. But okay.
I'm not used to it, but I mean, they're definitely doing some good things on there too, which kind of leads me into my MMA talk that I'm going to be doing because, I mean, it's Triple G all day. I'm sorry. Like, he should have the belt, and we shouldn't be even talking about this. But when that fight comes around, I'll have something to say about that. But on DAZN, or DAZN, this weekend,
I can't.
It's Bellator 221.
Oh.
Okay? Now, I know we go heavy with the UFC, but we do talk about the other federations going. And this card is flying under some radar.
Well, hold on. What happened? I thought Bellator was. We got to backtrack here. Bellator has no longer.
They're doing both.
They're doing. Okay.
They're
okay.
The Paramount Network, I believe it's still called.
Yep.
Yes.
And they also do their subscription service on DAZN. And I believe it's like $20 a month. I know they've got ties to boxers exclusively for where you do the pay-per-view. I want to say it's almost like set up like ESPN Plus.
Okay.
But I'm not an aficionado about this. I would say check out their webpage and definitely get your information correct. But I do know Bellator is going to be on there for Bellator 221. And the fight has got 3 fights on this. Like, this is going under the radar from the UFC card this weekend. But it's champion versus champion, Michael Chandler versus Patricio Pitbull. This one is light heavyweight versus featherweight, and expect fireworks. Straight up. If you don't know who either of these fighters are, they're 2 of the best that are not in the UFC. They're 2 of the best in the world of MMA. They're going to put on a show. Going into the co-main is welterweight Grand Prix semifinal because, Bellator does tournaments over there. Douglas Lima versus the one and only Michael Venom Page. Coming off that crazy fight against Paul Daly that should have been fight of the year. Didn't turn out that way. I expect him to come out and put on a performance. This one is going to be absolutely crazy. Page is 14-0, going against Lima, who's 30-7. And the fight that is going to intrigue Coach the most, the return of Jake Hager.
Oh, I'm familiar with him.
Mr. Jack Swagger, formerly known as from the WWE and pro wrestling, is got his second fight under the Bellator banner. He's fighting TJ Jones. So definitely some good fights going on this weekend.
I mean, he was impressive in his first fight.
He looked very impressive. I'm not too familiar with his opponent, but you know what? If Hager keeps doing what he's doing, he can shoot right up those ranks. And to see him get in the tournament and really see what he's got to do when they do another heavyweight Grand Prix, that'll be something. So definitely check it out. Check out DAZN on the internet. Find out their webpage, and you can get all the details to watch the fight on.
We'll say, if you're curious to see those details, it's DAZN.com.
Thank you, Pat. That's all we got for this week. So for your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Good night and good luck.
For Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour #ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.